things started.
Welcome back, Sunny Hostin. We haven't seen you for a while, and now you're here, and so welcome back.
Oh, thank you, Ruby.
You're welcome. Raven was at the Emmys last night. She's going to be taking us behind the scenes a little bit later on in the show. But what's on everyone's mind this morning? IED explosions in New York and New Jersey and a stabbing attack in Minnesota, all taking place within a 12-hour period on Saturday. This morning, the NYPD sent out an alert that they're seeking a 28-year-old man named Ahmed Khan Rahmani in connection with bombings. Now, how do you feel? I don't know. This is really a dumb question, but, you know, were you freaked out? Were you surprised? Tell me what hit you?
It was scary for me. I mean, I lived through New York on 9/11. I used to work in the building next door. So the sound of our windows blew that day. And that was the first thing I remember, is hearing sound. So when I see something like this unfold, of course you get scared. Is there more coming? And you immediately empathize with the people who were there in that moment, who didn't know what was happening, who didn't know, you know, am I going to be able to call a loved one? What's going on? Is there a series of events happening? And you look to people, you look to figures, whether they know what's happening or not, to kind of give some clarity as to what we can expect. Because the thing I think people seek in moments like that most is some kind of leadership, and knowing that someone is monitoring this and someone has our back that's bigger and more powerful than us and knows more than what we know, and is going to make sure that more people don't get injured or hurt.
Yeah, I wanted more information. I mean, I was actually covering this story for GMA over the weekend, and I wanted more information. I didn't want to be reactive, but I was in Washington, D.C. During 9/11, and I was concerned that these may be coordinated incidents, but I wanted to know more. And I think that's what's most important when these things happen. We have to take a step back. We can't give in to terror, because that's what terror is about. It's about making people frightened so that they react to other people's political beliefs. And I think what we need in terms of leadership is someone that will wait, that will pause, that will be thoughtful in leadership and not bombastic in leadership. And that's what I'm looking for.
How about you, Karen?
Yeah, I was in Los Angeles. You know, my heart just went out, and you get scared over it and hope that everyone's okay. But, you know, I take a little different position about the leadership, because I feel that, yes, we do need to know the facts. Of course, we have to take a pause for a moment, but I feel like that sometimes it shouldn't be about being politically correct, that sometimes that pause may be taken too long because we're afraid of offending someone or offending a certain group. And when we see terror like this happen, we need to call it out for what it is.
Okay, so
I think if you asked any of the people that had glass in their face that were running from that, they would call it terrorism.
So do you think that with all of that, it would have been smart for them to have let us know about the bomb that went off in Central Park several months ago that blew a kid's leg off? There was not a whole bunch of Hazarai made. Nobody was pointing fingers at Islamic terrorists. Nobody was doing that. But I wonder why nothing was said about it, because if a bomb goes off in Central Park and someone loses a leg, that's kind of a big deal, and you kind of want to be prepared that, oh, this might be happening. So I get really uncomfortable when people talk before they know what it is, because, listen, they blamed Atlanta. You remember not a long time ago, but Richard Jewell?
Yes.
He was in the park. They said, it's you did it. It wasn't him, you know? And so for me, before you tell me it's an Islamic terrorist, I want you to make sure that that's what it is.
And that you have the right person. I mean, remember during the Boston bombing, the marathon bombing, they named a kid. And his picture was everywhere. And that was just a terrible, terrible decision. It also happened in the Dallas police shooting, where they named an African-American guy who it's an open carry state, had an open carry gun, and they named him as one of the shooters. You know, I think, again, Candace, and I understand your point, and I think you call it what it is if you know that's what it is. I think you have to be very, very careful. And you can't play into people's fears. In fact, I think the sign of a true leader is someone that is thoughtful, that is not going to run amok without facts. And we see that so often in our country.
Bill de Blasio refused to call it terrorism. Now, the motivation, I think you're right about. Terrorism can be motivated by religion. It can be motivated by, there's numerous motivations. You can't call something Islamic extremism if you don't know if it's linked to that at all. But I think you can call it terrorism, because terrorism means an act of violence. That's a very broad word.
Well, no,
but it's a loaded word.
It's a loaded word, and so you do have to be careful about it, because there are volatile people out there, and to them, when you say terrorism, it only means one thing. So you want to be. It's not about being politically correct, but you don't want to name the wrong people. You just don't want to do it.
Do you think
that was his hesitation in not saying that?
People assume that.
Oh, yeah, I think he's terrified of the word terrorism. Absolutely, 100%. Even when it is terrorism.
Shouldn't our politicians be terrified of labeling something when they don't know?
I think you should be terrified of terrorists. I don't think you should be terrified of the word terrorism, because that's not what the dictionary definition of terrorism means. I think you should be wary of saying Islamic extremism when you don't have the facts. But terrorism is terrorism. When you blow up a bomb or a pressure cooker in New York City and people are... I mean,
terror has to be related to a political goal, and you know that. And so maybe, I don't know, because I think we're all speculating. We don't have that much information. Maybe it's a kid that decides that's mentally ill
when there are multiple ones going off. I would have to say that it's definitely terrorism.
Well,
where it comes from
it probably is, but I don't think probably is enough.
Well, I asked the question I asked before. A young man had his leg blown off, and I didn't see jack. I didn't see any of this heightened, oh my God, something's happening. It should have been.
If it was a test run, it should have been.
But we don't know what it was. But when the hell have you ever heard of a damn bomb in Central Park? And it blew his leg off.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that was it a fire? I thought it was a firework.
No, it was an explosion.
Okay.
And it was strong enough to blow his leg off. So it wasn't a firecracker. Unless they're making firecrackers that I've never heard of.
But police believe it was related to fireworks.
You know,
so again, we don't know.
But you know, they put stuff out. So I always want them to be cautious, because I wanted to know about that, and I knew about it because I knew, you know. But is this something that was connected to? I mean, it's a lot of questions that I have, but you know what? I always have questions, and that's why I'm such a pain in the butt. We will be right back with more Hot Topics.
Raven was rolling with Emmy winners all night, and she's taking you along for the ride next.
Real cheese people don't eat pasteurized, processed cheese food.
I have to tell an audience to calm down.
I don't know if we want you guys to calm down. You're an amazing audience.
President Obama's senior advisor, Valerie Jarrett. Then, the transgender models of Whoopi's new reality show, Strut. Plus, View Your Deal has your Emmy-winning sexy secrets. And we partnered with vendors for 50% off.
The Emmy Awards were last night, and you know, our Raven was there, and she took some of the big winners off the red carpet, and hilarity sometimes ensues. Take a look.
Is it ever okay to steal someone's food at work?
Yes.
Researchers have debunked the 5-second rule, which means you can drop anything on the floor, leave it there for however long within reason, and pick it up and eat it again. What food would you do that for?
Lobster. Yeah, I would leave lobster on the floor as long as it needed to be there, and under any circumstance, I would pick it up and eat it.
Last person you texted.
My mom. I was like, I'm at the carpet. I love you.
Like,
look out for me.
We love you. Turn on the TV. Who is the person in your life that'll be like, no, don't wear that?
I can't say my mother.
But it might be.
What's your last Google search?
My last Google search.
how to apply fake eyelashes. Research says that conservatives have better sex. How do you feel about that?
I hope conservatives had great sex. I'm making more power to them. I hope everybody has great sex. So do you have great sex?
I do have great sex.
Oh, well, she has great sex.
But I'll pick food over sex any day.
That's not great sex.
Are you sweating from the heat or are you sweating because you're nervous?
All of those things.
What is the one thing, now that you've been a woman on television, that you feel sorry for us for?
The time you have to do to get ready. Guys just go like this. That's still good. I'll wear that.
First thing you did this morning?
I can't say.
Oh, thank you so much.
Hello, Whoopi.
Look who I found.
That's my girl, honey. Mwah.
Hi, ladies of the view. I love you. You guys are amazing. Most embarrassing moment?
Long time ago when I was on Broadway, I had to use the bathroom. They stopped the whole show. Twice.
I love that So Raven. Me and my best friend when we were growing up watched it constantly.
I love you. Who are you excited to see tonight?
I'm excited to see. I've heard rumors. I've heard rumors that Beyonce might be here. I never met Morgan Freeman before, so he's on my bucket list.
What's your secret talent?
I can do a Shakira impression. I don't know if it's any good.
If you weren't an actor, what would you be?
Teacher, school teacher.
Look who it is. It's my step brother from 17 million years ago.
A lot of years ago.
It's
an exciting year. I have to tell you something. It's just a great year to be a person of color, and I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to it.
How are you? Nice to see you.
Raven.
The show's about to start, so let's go backstage and check out the winners.
And the Emmy goes to Jeffrey Tambor for Transparent.
I was shaking up there. You saw how inexpert I was.
It doesn't change.
It doesn't, and I forgot to thank my wife. So, Kasia, thank you. I will not be standing here were it not for you.
What happens after your show?
I don't really have many other skills. I'm not going to be able to become a movie star due to an inability to act or look like a movie star.
Courtney B. Vance. People versus O.J. Simpson, American Crime.
You guys are racking up tonight.
I feel good.
What was the first thing that went to your head when they said your name and you won?
Regina King, American Crime.
I can't curse. I was very happy, but shocked, and just happy that my mom could be there for the moment.
Oh, your mom's here with us. Hello.
Hi, ladies of the view.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Congratulations on your first Emmy.
Thank you.
I mean, really? That's coming out of my mouth. It's just
Key and Peer.
When we saw Damon Wayans go up there, because he's our hero. He's here. I mean, like a hero.
He's the hero.
And so if he did it, we were like, this would be the most amazing thing. What did they say, Key? And what?
You're an Emmy Award-winning actress. What do you do the next morning? Sit by the pool?
I doubt I will have a morning because I think this is going to take me into the morning.
So, you guys, the Emmys are over. That's right, I did my duty here. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. I miss y'all.
Well, we'll be right back.
She's been called the most powerful woman in America. President Obama's senior advisor, Valerie Jarrett, is live in Hot Topics next.
ABC News Special Report. Now reporting, George Stephanopoulos.
Good morning. We're coming on the air right now because President Obama is about to speak in New York City about this spate of bombings over the weekend. A bomb found in Chelsea, New York, exploded Saturday night. Bombs in Seaside, New Jersey, Saturday morning. Another bomb detonated after being taken over by officials last night in Elizabeth, New Jersey. A suspect is being searched for. The man seen on this surveillance video, that's actually the video of the explosion on Saturday night in Chelsea, but a man seen on the surveillance video dropping packages in that neighborhood, Ahmad Rahani, 28 years old, born in Afghanistan, naturalized U.S. citizen, now being hunted by police. I'm here with our chief investigative correspondent, Brian Ross. And Brian, officials now believe that this man is connected to all of the bombings over the weekend.
That's right. All four bomb experiences, the attack on the charity race for Marines in New Jersey, the bombs found overnight at the train station in New Jersey, and the two bombs here in New York. The surveillance video in New York indicated they saw him at both sides sites, planning a bomb, leaving a bag. They've also been able to track through a cell phone. The bomb that did not explode had a cell phone attached to it. By exploiting the information on that cell phone, they tracked it back to Rami's father, which then led him to the suspect.
And the police have also been able to identify his car, a Honda Civic, a blue Honda Civic. They've spoken with his family members who were apprehended on the Verrazano-Narrows Bridge last night.
That's right. There were 5 family members. FBI was following them, surveillance on them as they crossed the bridge into New York City. They believe they might be heading to the Kennedy Airport, and they pulled them over. They're now in custody, being questioned about the whereabouts of their 28-year-old son.
With our Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas as well. And Pierre, the FBI all over this right now. They wanted to get the word out to prevent Mr. Rouhani from leaving the country, but I want to stop you right there because we are now seeing President Obama. Let's listen here in New York.
The explosions that occurred here in New York City and New Jersey, and the other device that have been found in New Jersey. I've been monitoring the situation closely and receiving frequent updates from my team, and I've just been briefed again by FBI Director Comey. In addition, I've had a chance to speak with Governors Cuomo and Christie, as well as Mayor de Blasio. We've seen what was apparently a pipe bomb go off in New Jersey, in Seaside Park, where it could have seriously injured our U.S. Marines and spectators who were there for a race. The bombing in the Chelsea neighborhood here in New York injured more than 24 people. We are extremely fortunate and grateful that nobody was killed. And our prayers go out to all of those who have been injured. We want to wish them a speedy recovery. I especially want to commend all the outstanding police and first responders in both New York City and New Jersey for their extraordinary professionalism and their quick response, which surely prevented even more people from being hurt and ensured that people got assistance quickly. The investigation is moving rapidly, and as is my practice, I'm going to leave it to the FBI and law enforcement to provide details. I think everybody is aware at this point that there is a person of interest who is the focus of the investigation, and the FBI can give you further details in terms of how that is proceeding. I told Governors Cuomo and Christie and Mayor de Blasio that they and their teams will continue to have all federal support as they move ahead with their investigations in tracking down every lead and working to keep the people of this city and of this region safe. Law enforcement is asking for the help of the community, and so to everybody in this region, I want to repeat what we've said before. If you see something suspicious, then you need to say something. Contact local law enforcement. In the meantime, I would ask that the press try to refrain from getting out ahead of the investigation. I am extraordinarily happy with the cooperation that's been taking place between the FBI and state and local law enforcement officials. They are moving smartly on this investigation. It does not help if false reports or incomplete information is out there. So try to, as much as possible, stick to what our investigators say, because they actually know what they're talking about. Meanwhile, I know that the United Nations meetings here every year already create an additional workload for New York. But given the UN meetings, we also have a particularly high level of federal resources here to help as needed. We're going to make sure that everybody is working together seamlessly as one team to get to the bottom of what happened, to find those responsible, and to make sure that justice is done. Meanwhile, while all this is going on in New York and New Jersey, we're also focused on the stabbing attack at the shopping mall in Minnesota. At this point, we see no connection between that incident and what happened here in New York and New Jersey. Our attention there is on the people who were injured. And again, we are very grateful that no one lost their life. Thanks to the quick action of a brave off-duty police officer, the suspect was killed, and we avoided more people being hurt. I had a chance also to speak with Governor Dayton this morning. I assured him that we will provide all the assistance that he needs in the investigation. The FBI is investigating the Minnesota incident as a potential act of terrorism. We will direct the full resources of the federal government to make sure that the investigation goes forward aggressively. And finally, I want to take this opportunity to reassure the people in this city, this region, and Americans across our country that our counterterrorism and law enforcement professionals at every level, federal, state, and local, are working together around the clock to prevent attacks and to keep us safe. They are the best of the best. Over the years, they have thwarted many plots and saved many lives, and we are incredibly grateful for their service today and every single day. We will continue to lead the global coalition in the fight to destroy ISIL, which is instigating a lot of people over the internet to carry out attacks. We are going to continue to go after them. We're going to take out their leaders. We're going to take out their infrastructure. They are continuing to lose ground in Iraq and in Syria, and later today I'll be meeting with Prime Minister Abadi of Iraq to discuss the need to sustain that momentum. As we take away more of their territory, it exposes ISIL as the failed cause that it is, and it helps to undermine their ideology, which over time will make it harder for them to recruit and inspire people to violence. And we're going to continue to enlist tech companies and community and religious leaders to push back against online extremist content and all messages of hate. At moments like this, I think it's important to remember what terrorists and violent extremists are trying to do. They are trying to hurt innocent people, but they also want to inspire fear in all of us and disrupt the way we live, to undermine our values. And so even as we have to be vigilant and aggressive, both in preventing senseless acts of violence, but also making sure that we find those who carry out such acts and bring them to justice, we all have a role to play as citizens in making sure that we don't succumb to that fear. And there's no better example of that than the people of New York and New Jersey. When I was speaking to Governor Cuomo and Governor Christie and Mayor de Blasio, one point that they all made is, folks around here, they don't get scared. They're tough, they're resilient, they go about their business every single day. And that kind of toughness and resoluteness and the recognition that neither individuals nor organizations like ISIL can ultimately undermine our way of life. That's the kind of strength that makes me so proud to be an American, and that's the kind of strength that is going to be absolutely critical, not just in the days to come, but in the years to come. By showing those who want to do us harm that they will never beat us, by showing the entire world that as Americans we do not and never will give in to fear, that's going to be the most important ingredient in us defeating those who would carry out terrorist acts against us. Thank you very much, everybody. And as I said, you will be receiving, I'm sure, ongoing briefings from both the FBI and local law enforcement in terms of the details of the investigation.
President Obama wrapping up, and that new information is coming in right now. As the president was speaking, we have learned that the suspect, Ahmed Rahani, is in fact in police custody. He was taken in Linden, New Jersey. I want to put up that photo right now showing him after he was apparently shot by police. We're told that he's on his way to the hospital. I'm here with our chief investigative correspondent, Brian Ross. This information just coming in.
Just coming in now, confirmed by federal and local law enforcement officials to ABC News that he was taken into custody in the last half hour in Linden, New Jersey, after what was at first described to us as an active shooter situation. We don't have many of the details, but we do know, according to police now, that he is in custody. He is taken alive. He was being tracked in a blue Honda car about a few miles from his home in Linden.
Yeah, earlier this morning when I was speaking to Mayor Bill de Blasio, he did sound confident without saying so that they had a bead on this man. And Brad Garrett, our former FBI special agent, remarkable, he was taken alive.
And I think, George, if you look at his MO, this kid didn't want to die. He drops bombs, remotely sets them off, and then goes on the run and drops over the weekend at least 3 different locations. So the idea that he got in a shootout doesn't surprise me, but that he also survived doesn't surprise me.
And we have some video coming in right now. Apparently it's video of him in the ambulance being taken into the hospital right now. You see that is the scene near Linden, New Jersey. That was just a short ride, several miles from Elizabeth, New Jersey, where his family members apparently had a home. And I want to go to Lindsay Davis now, who's been at Elizabeth all morning long, the FBI searching through one of those homes.
That's right, George. We continue to see a very active scene here. The roads for several blocks remain blocked off. You have FBI agents who continue to go in and out of the apartment just above the First American Fried Chicken. Now, we have learned that apparently his father owns this fried chicken business. He is said to have lived above, the suspect is said to have lived above it in the apartment. At least that was his last known address. He apparently, from time to time, still worked at this fried chicken business. And another active scene still just a few miles away here remains at the Elizabeth train station, where last night you had those 2 men that found the backpack with those 5 suspicious devices inside.
And Brian Ross, thank you, Lindsay. I want to put that video back up again of the ambulance just a few moments ago in New Jersey. There you see the suspect right there, apparently conscious, strapped in to that stretcher. But of course, the fact that he's now in custody does not mean that this is over.
Not by any means. There's still questions of whether he had accomplices, who was, and not only was this, they're searching through his social media, looking for contacts he may have had in this country or overseas, George.
Pierre Thomas, what more do you have on that?
Well, sources are telling us that obviously they're very happy about the fact that this arrest has been made, but they emphasized all morning that whenever this man was caught, that a lot of work had to be done. Some sources felt that he probably had some kind of support. They're looking at his entire background. They're also looking very closely at his internet activity, social media footprint, because one of the things they want to know is, was he directed to do this, or was he inspired by some organization like ISIS to do something like this, George? The key here is that right now they want the public to continue to help them pursue this case.
And Brad Garrett, as this information is coming in, we know that his family members were detained on the Verrazano Narrows Bridge last night, perhaps heading to Kennedy Airport, but they have not been arrested.
Correct, which would tell us, at least on the front end, there's no immediate or direct connection between the family and him and these bombings. Now, it sort of remains to be seen about what they really know or don't know about his behavior, but no charges obviously yet.
No charges yet. And Brian Ross, this is getting to the heart of so many of these recent shootings where you see people inspired, not necessarily connected to others. We can't make that determination here yet, although it appears that Minnesota stabbing on Saturday night, this was a man who was clearly not directed by ISIS.
Not directed, although ISIS claimed he was a soldier for them. In this case, the big break came with cell phones and cameras. The bomb that did not explode in New York Saturday night, that had a cell phone attached to it. And by 3 in the morning, early Sunday morning, they had that cell phone. They tracked the number. It went back to Rahami's father. That then put Rahami himself on the target list for them. He became a person of interest. They were watching him all day. So really within a matter of 12 to 14 hours, they had a pretty good idea who the suspect was. And as they looked at surveillance videos, they saw him not only at both sites in New York, but they believe they see him on pictures, although they're grainy, in New Jersey in advance of that Marine charity run.
Yeah, so he was covering a fair amount of ground. But so far, Brad Garrett, we don't have the evidence of the kind of network that we've seen on the attacks in Europe.
No, and George, he's another example, I believe, to either be a lone wolf, or maybe you're going to hook 1 or 2 other people with him. But this is a guy maybe has some direct or indirect connection to ISIS, but my guess is planned this pretty much himself and launched it.
But was able to construct several different explosive devices.
But George, that's not that difficult to do. Every one of the bombs, at least how they've been described, you can find online. And within a few hours, you and I could probably build those bombs. So,
maybe you, not me, but
well, perhaps. But the idea being, this is just not that difficult to do. If you're willing to take the risk to do it, and look at what he did. He dropped bombs, walked away, and he didn't drop them in highly populated or a place where people gather regularly. Obviously, New York is a densely populated place.
The kind of random places.
There are random places, and there are also, in my view, odd places. Why would you drop a bomb next to a dumpster, knowing logically the dumpster is going to, absorb part of your bomb? It's sort of amateur as far as its approach, as far as I'm concerned.
And Brian, these pressure cooker bombs, very much like those bombs constructed by the Tsarnaev brothers, the Boston Marathon bombing.
Absolutely. These are classic bombs used by terrorists. There's a very precise set of instructions online how to build them. That's exactly how the senior Tsarnaev brother built his bombs. And it appears that same recipe, as it were, was used in this case. One didn't go off for whatever reason, and that was the big break in the case, because then with an unexploded bomb, they're able to go through and look for fingerprints, DNA, and of course that key cell phone which led them to this suspect. He has been, the question now is, are there other devices he may have planted elsewhere? Were the devices left behind?
Yeah, and there was one report of perhaps a device at the scene in Linden, New Jersey, where he was finally taken down. We're joined on the phone now by John Cohen, the former director of the National Counterterrorism Center, also former FBI agent as well. And John, this comes at a time when New York City on the highest state of alert because of all these world leaders here for the UN General Assembly, including President Obama.
No, that's absolutely right, George. When the UN General Assembly takes place, police are all hands on deck. You have a heavy security presence. So it's interesting that they would pick to that time period to do these types of attacks.
Some speculation that perhaps Mr. Rouhani was trying to get rid of one of the bombs last night, when that one that was found in Elizabeth, New Jersey, at the train station heading into New York.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, obviously, he had to feel that investigators were beginning to close in. They had acquired more evidence. They were looking at video, and it sort of seems that maybe he dumped the bombs and was trying to get away.
And this does seem to fit a pattern we've seen here in the United States over the last year. Increasingly, groups, as Brad Garrett was talking about, individuals acting on their own, perhaps self-radicalized, maybe with one partner. No sign yet of a broad network.
Exactly. Increasingly, law enforcement authorities have become even more concerned about the threat posed by individuals who are inspired by what they see on social media, inspired by what they see on the internet, informed about how to carry out attacks by what they see on the internet, then acting independent of terrorist organizations. Very different problem for law enforcement to deal with, and it really requires that we change the way we think about how we investigate tips and leads that are coming in to law enforcement about people who may pose a threat.
And Brian Ross, chances that this problem could get worse, even as you heard President Obama just a minute ago talk about the progress being made against ISIS on the battlefields of Iraq and Syria, but that could create more problems in Europe as fighters flow out of Iraq and Syria into Europe, and more problems here in the United States.
Well, that's been the concern certainly in Europe about ISIS, foreign fighters who have gone to Syria and Iraq and then have come back armed and ready to take action. And in many cases, ISIS sends notes to its sympathizers, including those here: stay where you are, attack where you are, that will do us more good. There's no indication as to any particular motivation or allegiance that Rouhani, if he in fact is the suspect, had, but it's still of great concern. We're told they're looking at, as Pierre alluded to, social media contacts he had with people he knew in Pakistan.
And we know, Pierre Thomas, that ISIS has been sending out broad messages across social media, trying to simply get people excited, get them to go take matters into their own hands.
Absolutely, George. And we're also hearing from our sources that charges could be levied against the suspect as early as today. They believe that they have enough evidence to bring charges. It could come as early as today. And, George, you're absolutely right. If you put in perspective what just happened in Minnesota with the stabbing, this case, the FBI and law enforcement in this country right now, they're under tremendous pressure. We don't know if this case in the New Jersey area is tied to ISIS, but there are more than 800 different suspects that the FBI has identified as to sympathizing with ISIS. And there are various levels of investigation involving those people in all 50 states. Think about that. And what the FBI director has said over and over again, it's the people that they may not have come across that they're would be the biggest threat. Now, so far, we have no indication that this suspect was on the FBI's radar. We're going to be digging into that more and more as the day goes on, but that is the early guidance.
Well, yeah, and that's the question I wanted to follow up on. This did not turn up on any kind of FBI or intelligence chatter, either this incident or the one in Minnesota on Saturday night.
Well, again, that's the early guidance. The first brush suggests that, but again, they will be going through computer files, checking with different agencies to make sure nothing was missed. Sometimes they will turn up something that they didn't know was there, but that is the early indication that these people were not on the radar, which is, again, the threat that looms large going forward.
Okay, Pierre, Thomas, Brian, Ross, Brad, Garrett, thank you all very much. Lindsay Davis and Elizabeth as well. Once again, the suspect in the bombings here in New York and New Jersey, Ahmed Rahani, has been taken into custody, has been shot, now in the hospital in New Jersey. Federal charges expected to be filed today. We're going to be back at 12:30 when the mayor of New York, the governor of New York, and the police commissioner will all be giving us the latest on the investigation. I'm George Stephanopoulos in New York.
The Calvin Klein underwear that kind of blew up on Instagram. I did that with a friend of mine who's a photographer, and I was like, let me post this and see what my friends think of it, basically. And it ended up blowing up. Yeah,
you made some new friends with that one.
Yeah, and then I was contacted through social media to do other photo shoots and to be on cover of certain different magazines. And usually, I think there was one in particular in Florida. It was Guy magazine was another one, and then Attitude, and it just kept coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Not surprised. Now, Whoopi, as the executive producer of Strut.
I'm one of the executive
producers. Sorry, as one of the executive producers. Oh,
Tom Leonardis and I have been working together for 23 years. And so this really came because Tom said, hey, our other partners, 44 Blue, have something they want to talk to us about, and they think we're the right partners to have. And so as soon as they said it's about the first transgender modeling agency, I'd already said yes in the middle of the conversation because, we've been living with transgender people in this country as long as there's been a country. But you don't know who's transgender, and that's the way it's supposed to be. But because oftentimes there are so many issues that we're coming up against, we wanted to show people that these are folks with families, dreams, hopes. They want to be models. They have the same stuff, same wants that you have. So, yeah.
On that note, Tom, you've made a comment that I agree with, that you want people in middle America to see this show, which I think is super important. But tell me a little bit about what you hope that they'll learn or discover from watching a show like this.
Well, I think every time we watched a cut, we were always surprised to see that we forgot that they were transgender. And they're dealing with the same issues that we're dealing with. They're dealing with dating. They're dealing with family issues. They're dealing with friendships. It's all right there. This is a show for everybody. We're all human, and that's what the show is.
Yeah. Dominique, you're a veteran of the modeling world and have been through your own personal struggles. You've become a mentor to Laith, whose mom is struggling with his transition, and we have a clip.
Has her beliefs, right? And you cannot go against another person's beliefs because then you would be a hypocrite.
Right.
But you still have to tell her how you feel.
Yeah.
Because you're not hiding. We are not hiding anymore.
Yeah. I'm really nervous about speaking to my mom because I think I've disappointed her. We try to talk about my transition and where I am now, and she just shuts down, and I think that really needs to change.
Laith, how is your mom doing with this?
She's doing a lot better. I initially going into this, I didn't think that she'd ever become more accepting, but as time goes on, you just have to realize that it's a transition for me, and it's just as big as a transition for her.
It's a journey for them as well.
Yeah. She's a phenomenal woman. I haven't been able to actually meet her yet, but just from, talking to Laith and stuff, she's a very phenomenal person.
So was your dad. I saw the first episode. But our thanks to Laith and Dominique. Strut premieres tomorrow night on Oxygen, and we'll be right back.
Their marriage. Plus, steal some Emmy-winning hotness on View Your Deal. We partnered with vendors for half off everything that'll make you red carpet sexy.
It is day 10 of our 20
thanks to our sponsor, Wyndham Rewards. Candace is blindfolded in this win booth today, which is full of numbers that represent today's studio audience, and she's about to pick a winner. Are you guys ready? You ready, Candace? She's got it. She's got it.
Am I coming on out?
Uh-oh. Who is it?
98.
98. What's your name?
Teresa Halbert.
And where are you from?
Springfield, Missouri.
Oh, boy. All right. But we have great news for you. Not only have you won this trip, but so did our online winner, Dennis Anthony Karagopoulos. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. From New York, New York. You want to see what you won? Check this out.
You won a 5-night, 6-day trip for 2 with round-trip airfare to Colorado Springs, courtesy of Wyndham Rewards. The Mining Exchange, a Wyndham Grand Hotel and Spa, elegantly fuses old-world charm with modern amenities and exceptional service to create a world-class hotel experience. Its location in downtown Colorado Springs makes it comfortably nearby to the area's most famous attractions.
I'm happy to go with you. I'm just offering myself up.
I'd probably better take my husband.
Oh, yeah? All right. Well, if he can't make it, you know who to call. We are giving away 2 more trips tomorrow. Tune in to see which audience member gets one. And viewers at home need to visit our website by midnight Eastern tonight to see how to enter to win a chance to win tomorrow's vacay. Hopefully.
I'm watching this. I keep thinking, where would you want to go on vacay? If you could go anywhere in the world, quickly.
I don't know.
All right, I'll come back to you.
Ireland. I want to go to Ireland.
You want to go? Have you never been
Never
before?
been to Ireland.
All right.
I want to go back to Capri.
What about you?
Hawaii. I've been before, but when I was like 10. So it's been a while.
I think Japan.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I think
Japan's great.
Yeah,
All
I've
these
never
places
been.
You're talking about are great. I'd go to Greece.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes. Greece is wonderful.
I tell you.
I was in Patmos, which is one of the islands, years and years ago, and I left my wallet at the taverna, and the man came looking for me on the island. Now, of course, I was easy to find. But it just made me think this is the place I want to be, where people close up and come and look for you and give you your money.
Yes.
I mean, I remember in the old days, that was the norm.
That was.
But there you go. But you know what, y'all? You are spectacular. We're thrilled that you came today. We want you to have a great day. We want you to take a little time to enjoy whatever view you